Could legally buy a stolen gun and never know it.
Let me tell you a story that should make every law-abiding gun owner pause. Not because someone misused a firearm, not because someone broke the law, but because someone followed every rule and still ended up in jail. Picture this. You turn 21, you walk into one of the largest gun stores in your state. Bright lights, glass counters, IDs checked, paperwork filled out, background check submitted. Everything clean, everything compliant. You buy a handgun the way the system tells you to buy a handgun. You keep the receipt. You leave thinking you did everything right. And then fast forward, you get into a minor accident. Nothing dramatic. You call the police yourself because you're trying to be responsible. You're standing there waiting while the officer runs your information. And then you hear it. That electronic chime from inside the patrol car. And the mood instantly changes.
I hear the computer chime and it says, gun stolen out of Union City Police Department in 2016.
He spent the next 3 days behind bars.
Now imagine trying to process that in real time. Stolen from a police department almost a decade ago. Your brain would be scrambling. What are you even talking about? You didn't buy this in a parking lot. You didn't meet some sketchy guy off a classified ad. You bought it from a federally licensed dealer under fluorescent lights with paperwork, with a background check. But in that moment, none of that matters. Because now the firearm in your glove compartment isn't just property, it's stolen police property, and you're not the reporting party anymore. You're the suspect.
Could legally buy a stolen gun and never know it.
Channel 2 consumer investigator Justin Gray's here now. So Justin, it's a loophole in the law. It's left a young Cobb County man facing a felony charge even though he did nothing wrong.
Yeah, George, the 23-year-old Kennesaw State student only found out his gun he bought at a federally licensed gun dealer is listed as police property in law enforcement records when police arrested him and threw him in jail for 3 days.
3 days in jail for a gun he bought legally. Let that breathe for a second. 3 days in a cell because of a serial number.
No.
23-year-old Jarrett Franco Modica was charged with a felony. A judge even ruled no bond.
I started shaking, panic attacking.
I mean, listen to him. I started shaking, panic attacking. That's not a hardened criminal reaction. That's a 23-year-old whose entire understanding of the system just collapsed. No bond for theft by receiving, theft of something he purchased legally. And here's where the absurdity really sets in. He kept the receipt.
Proof he never stole that gun.
Yeah, so what is this?
It's a Jimenez Arms. It's the one I bought. It's the receipt.
Modica bought the handgun legally shortly after turning 21.
The serial number on the receipt matches the serial number on the warrant. Proof on paper, black and white. So how does this even happen? How does a gun that was supposedly stolen from a police department end up sitting in a display case of one of the largest gun stores in Georgia? Here's the part that makes this story feel like a bureaucratic horror film.
In 2016, it was placed in the evidence room after being confiscated during a theft investigation.
It was a paperwork error from that police department.
A paperwork error nearly a decade ago, but now the criminal warrant says this 23-year-old knew or should have known the gun was stolen.
A paperwork error from a police department almost 10 years ago, and somehow the burden shifts to the buyer. He knew or should have known. How? How would he know? You and I can't access the federal stolen gun database. Only law enforcement and licensed dealers can.
Well, you and I, we cannot check that federal database. Only police and licensed gun store owners can.
So let's break this down calmly. The average citizen cannot check the database. Federal laws does not require stores to verify whether a firearm has been reported stolen. A police department makes a clerical mistake. Years pass, the firearm enters lawful commerce. A citizen buys it legally, and when the error finally surfaces, he goes to jail. Now, this isn't anti-police. This isn't anti-gun store. Hell, they thought it came from a police department, so why would they check it? This is pro-accountability. Because if the system can swallow up someone who did everything right, that should concern everyone, especially gun owners. And here's the broader point. We constantly hear about loopholes in gun laws. But this right here, this is a systemic flaw, a compliance trap, a situation where you can obey every rule and still become collateral damage of administrative negligence. And the part that should make you lean forward is this: the charges weren't even immediately dropped.
I checked with the Cobb County District Attorney. They still have not dropped these charges, telling me it's under investigation.
Under investigation, after the receipt surfaced, after the serial number matched, after the trail led back to a paperwork issue, he still had to sit there waiting. And that's the quiet fear this story exposes. Not criminals, not chaos, but bureaucracy. The idea that a clerical error from 2016 can follow you into a jail cell in 2024. So what's the takeaway? First, document everything. Keep your receipts. Photograph them, store them digitally, store them physically, because in this case, that small slip of paper is the only thing standing between him and a felony conviction. Second, understand something uncomfortable. Compliance does not make you immune from system errors. It reduces risk. It does not eliminate it. It means be informed. Be meticulous, be aware, because sometimes the biggest threat to your freedom isn't a criminal hiding in the shadows. It's a data entry mistake sitting in a file cabinet somewhere else. This young man did everything right and still had to experience handcuffs, a holding cell, and the sound of a judge saying no bond, all because of a serial number. That's not a story about gun violence. That's a story about how fragile your freedom can be when paperwork goes wrong. And if that doesn't make you double check your documentation, if that doesn't actually make you mad, it should. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.